It's the perception of the buyer that we are just missing so heavily. My name is Justin Neagle. I'm the chief storyteller at Spot Migration, also the co-host of Building Scale. So I have a very deep belief that all marketing works. If you do marketing at the level that it can be done, any of it can work.
Old R&B band, but it was like, you down with OPP?
Oh, you know me.
I renamed that in my head and burned it in as OPP is not other people's problems, but other people's perceptions.
You have to be willing to piss off 80% of people to find your 20%. I mean, I assume when you moved from tech to marketing, that wasn't a, oh, this is easy. It was probably like, oh shit, there's no ones and zeros.
It was the fastest trip from hubris to humility I've ever experienced in my life.
What happens in reality is you make more money. It's so hard for people to wrap their head around this of like trying to just help people. They see it, they feel it, and that resonates way more than the fact that like, well, this guy took me through a great sales process.
Justin, welcome to the MSP Insider. Please tell the audience who you are, what you do, and why the hell that you do it.
My name is Justin Neagle. I'm the chief storyteller at Spot Migration, also the co-host of Building Scale, which is a podcast for the construction space that we built out of Spot Migration, which is really cool. What I do is a lot of sales, marketing, and culture. That's what a chief storyteller does. We tell stories not only externally to get new business, but also internally to make sure our people are living the vision that we've kind of put forth in front of them. And why I do it is because I love helping people. I unbelievably love helping people, so much so that I went to school to be a super cop, is what I call it. Never became super cop. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think that dream is gone. Once I realized you could help people in business, though, it was like, holy shit, I already have like all these skills and I can start helping. It was magic when that happened many, many years ago at this point.
Yeah. That's awesome. I had no idea you went to school to be a super cop, but I also went to school to be a super cop, and I never pursued it because what I found really, really quickly when I did was that entire industry, and I'm sorry for anyone that wants to judge me for this, but like none of the outcomes were based upon your own merit, right? Like you were going to be victim to the system. And that absolutely crushed my soul as a whatever it was, 5th year senior, right? And I was like, well, why the hell would I ever build a career out of like in an ecosystem where I've outsourced my sovereignty, my own ability to like grow, exceed, whatever. So that's probably a totally different episode, but
similar vibes upon when that transition happened. So 2010, right? Trying to be a cop, cool. And nobody's hiring. The crisis had just happened. No public sector is really hiring. Right. Went to ASU, moved back to Chicago, so I'm looking for all these jobs. I'm in the CPD, Chicago Police Department pool, right? So like every 3 months you got to re-up your physical. Yeah, I'm done with everything. I've done everything under the sun: psych eval, polygraph, everything good to go. I asked one of these officers at one of these re-ups, said, "Hey, is there any reason why I wouldn't get a job next? Like why I wouldn't be next in line? I'm literally done with everything." He said, "Oh, no. It's like monkeys throwing darts at a dartboard. There's no rhyme or reason upon why we would hire you." And I was like, oh shit. And at the same time, I was working at this law firm that was like nurturing me and saying like, hey, like you can do this and this and this and this. And I kept like just kind of expanding out my expertise in the admin side of it. And it was like this epiphany kind of happened. I was like, oh shit, like I get somebody that really cares about me at this law firm that's really trying to nurture my ability to succeed. And then I have a department, and nothing against the Chicago Police Department, but like I'm a number. They don't give a shit about me at all. And that's just part of that process, which then it was like, oh shit, well, let's go to the people that really are trying to put me in the best position to win, which that is carried over now into the IT space where it's like, Will and Kosh, founders of Spot Migration, they saw me and said, oh, we will fucking nurture the shit out of you to get you to the best place possible, which has been an amazing journey. 8 years here in May. Wow, next month, 8 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's amazing too, because I think there's so much to learn, regardless of the topic we were just riffing on. Like as an MSP owner, which is who's listening here, there's so much to gain out of just the silver lining of what you said, which really was my career from MSP. Like I oftentimes will say my career in MSP over those 18 years was I had a high level of trust from really great people who gave me opportunities that I wasn't ready for, but they felt I deserved, and they were willing to allow me to become the person I needed to be successful in it, and just stacking all of those things. But every one of those, opportunities was exactly that. Like someone gave me the opportunity and poured into me and gave me just enough leash to fail a lot, but enough grace to empower and encourage and grow me and coach me. And that, I think, is one of the secret ingredients that is maybe missing's the wrong word. Not natural, right? Like in this particular industry where we're sort of like accidental business owners, we don't come equipped with knowing those kinds of things. And so culture was one of the things that you get to be a storyteller about. I'm going to dig into that a little bit later, because otherwise I'm going to blow the whole show format. And I have to start with the question that was left behind from a previous guest. And this question actually comes from Ashley Cooper. Okay. And her question is, what is one strongly held belief that you have about the MSP industry, and what evidence or situation would cause you to reconsider or abandon that belief?
Ooh, what? So maybe, is it something that I have to also believe, or is it something that the industry believes?
This was intended to be yours, but maybe we pivot and right angle target it.
Okay.
Because of the topic I know we're going to get into anyway, I think it would be a great thing to say, what is one strongly held belief that the industry has, and what evidence or situation would cause any MSP listening to reconsider or abandon that belief?
Okay. So I think the concept that I hear a bunch, and there's two sides of the coin. Some people believe niching down is good. Some people believe, no, you should be everything to everybody. Mm-hmm. And I understand the fights on both sides of this. However, I think when we talk about niching, I think people get stuck into, oh, it's an industry, it's manufacturing, it's doctors, it's lawyers. It's like, no. That can just be a demo. Like that can just be like, hey, you guys are operationally sound. You're operationally mature. You hit 2.5 on operational maturity. So like you actually are running a business that you understand shit, compared to you're just running around with like your chicken with a head cut off, right? Like you have no concept as a business owner what you're doing. Those are horrible businesses to do IT for. That's what certainly I've seen. So when I think of a demographic, I think of, like for us, we niche into construction heavily. Yeah. However, when we look at the big picture, it's like you have to be an operationally minded company. And I think that is missed so much. Like it's just like, oh, well, they have money and I'll do a nonprofit and then I'll do a doctor and then I'll do a lawyer and it's just like, one, for a marketing aspect, that is such a giant, unbelievable pain in the ass. And unless you've got like 5 or 6 marketing people that are, rocking, it's so hard for them to actually speak to that demographic effectively, because a doctor compared to a lawyer, compared to construction, compared to manufacturer, they're all fucking different. Like you're doing network for them and you're maybe putting the same firewall in, and you might be, we're pushing people to the cloud and like some similar things there. And a lot of it's the same, but it's not the same to them. And I think we forget that, like, it doesn't matter what we think and the actual technicality of things. It's the perception of the buyer that we are just fucking missing so heavily, because we're not thinking about who they are and then saying those are the ones we want. And for us and for me, and I'll take this to my grave, it's like you have to have some niched version of your list or of the people you want to do business with. And it doesn't have to be all one industry, but you have to have a fucking demo. And if you try to say it's everybody or anybody that has more than 10 computers or whatever shit, it's like, that's not the way to go about that. And you're totally missing a ton. Like, you think you're leaving money on the table by just including everybody, but you're really leaving a shit ton of money on the table because you're not talking to the people you actually want to do business with and removing the people that are just in your way from getting to them.
Yeah. I love so many things about the illustration you just gave. And the one thing that I was literally like keeping my eyes open, closing them and envisioning when you're talking about demo, which for those listening, like the demographic of the people you're talking about, like just imagine yourself in that room of 100 or 1,000 people, right? And you happen to be on stage, you've got the microphone, and someone calls on you and they're like, who do you help or who do you want to do business with? Like, if whatever you say next comes out of your mouth, 7 of the people in the room can't like gang rush the front line to like get to you, because what you said was like, I help businesses between 23 and 72 employees that are good. Like it just falls flat, right? And like you have to be so specific that you literally reached out into that crowd and got those 7 people to sprint to the back when you got off stage to chase you down because they are exactly that person, which was one spirit of it. The other thing, though, that I think would get lost in what you said that I learned and came to figure out to be so true as well from the marketing, the messaging, ultimately the selling was, I forget the old R&B band, but it was like You Down with OPP. That song. Yeah, exactly. Right. So like I renamed that in my head and burned it in as OPP is not other people's problems, but other people's perceptions. Mm-hmm. So like I'm always singing that song to myself when building the messaging and the marketing layers, because that's ultimately really marketing's job, at least in my definition, is like marketing handles managing other people's perceptions and sales manages transferring conviction. Right. But you have to get the first part right.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, effort spent on the second one is just such time wasted.
And when they don't say the same fucking thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I get this a lot where it's like, well, our marketing does this. We built this white paper. We built the website. Whatever the thing is that they built, right? And it says one thing. Mm-hmm. But then a salesperson goes in and says, "Oh, like we have a full manufacturing, like niche into. We know this. We know all these tools. Your ERP system is something we use. All these different things, right?
Yeah.
And then they go back and they look at the website and it's like, that doesn't say anything about manufacturing or shit. Right. This ERP isn't mentioned at all or any of those things. And it's like, oh yeah, well, it's because you're talking out of 2 sides of your mouth, right? Like marketing, which I totally agree with you, is like, hey, let's show you that we're here and like, hey, we can help you, and then get the conviction that exists on the sales side. It's like if one side of that doesn't say the same thing the other side's saying, is like, oh, it all fades away, right? Yeah. And I think that's why it's so important to have whoever that person that's overseeing has an understanding of both sides. Now, maybe you're a big enough organization where you have a leader in marketing, a leader in sales, cool. But there still has to be such a collaboration and umbrella that carries both of them, so that you're not in this position of like, oh shit, like we're actually not helping each other. And it should just be a collaborative help.
Yeah. And the best place to go to gut check that first, because I actually lived in a world in my first go around when I was responsible for growth, marketing didn't report not only to me, but like we reported up to 2 different parts of the org. And it very quickly became apparent that it wasn't just the traditional like sales versus marketing thing happening. Like our KPIs were fundamentally opposed to one another, and breaking that down was like, oh, no wonder, right? Like, and so not only is alignment important, but to your point about the congruency between the two is so critical in what is it that you're aiming to achieve. And so, and granted, most MSPs may not be large enough to have, let alone 2 leaders or reporting to a different area. That's fine. But like regardless, then the one person that's responsible for it, you really have to understand the last piece that you mentioned, which is the buyer's journey or the prospect's journey or their methodology or their ideology or their experience, which is so huge. That was my big unlock for the sales side, was realizing that even though I needed a sales process, which eventually I banned that word and called it a framework, like the only process that mattered was the buying process from the buyer to really convert. So what I want to dig in first with you is kind of before, I want to go back in time with Justin. Before spot migration, before building scale kind of blew up, there had to have been this turning point. Tell me about the moment that you realized that typical MSP playbook for growth, especially as it relates to like paid ads, vendor lead gen, kind of all of those strategies, was fundamentally flawed.
So I have a very deep belief that all marketing works. I think if you do marketing at the level that it can be done, any of it can work. That doesn't mean that I personally can make everything work, right? Like that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying it can work, because I get a lot of MSPs that come to me and say, hey, like, what should I do? Should I go into SEO? Should I do PPC? Should I be doing events? Should I be sending out mailers? All these different things. And I think that it all can work. But I think you have to start thinking like, what's the probability? Right. Like that's it. And in time frame and dollars and all those things. So when I think the flaw is people are saying like, I just need the one thing that works. And it's like, well, it all fucking works. But like, where are you trying to take your MSP? And where are you located? Like if you're located in Chicago, that gives you a lot more options than if you're located in like fucking nowhere, Wyoming. Right. It's just like they're different. Like they're different strategies, and you have to think of it more holistically as a strategy and not as a, oh, I'm going to run Google ads, or oh, I'm going to do LinkedIn ads, or oh, I'm going to send out mailers. Like it's just like you have to think of it overarchingly, kind of like this idea of sales and marketing need to be on the same page. Right. The same thing goes just for any marketing initiative. It's saying like, hey, like we're going to start email marketing. Great, cool. What does that mean? Like, what's the strategy to it? Is it to a specific demo? What are you actually offering of value? Right? Like you have to start really working through this and then stack other things on it too. Oh, well, once somebody opens our email, it'd be great if we could hit them with an ad. Or, hey, it'd be great if I could know that they opened the email and then I could call them. Or, hey, like it'd be great if I knew that they were part of this organization and I could see them at an event, because it's all stacking everything together. And it's not just one thing. Just do PPC, just run Google and you'll be fine. And like, don't get me wrong, Google's been great to us. We built our business through the $1 million mark through Google solely. Like it was solely that. We weren't good at lots of things, but we were good at that. So like, that was like, cool, let's do that. What we found over time is like, oh shit, like we need not only more oil wells, as they say, but we need things that just touch each other and say, oh, the podcast is great. Right. Because like, oh, I'm getting all this time and I'm really, really diving in business with this leader. But it's even better if they're in Arizona and then I get to go to lunch with them. And then it's even better if I get to then stack in, oh, well, the network I have for you, Mr. Specialty Trade, is a bunch of GCs and I can connect you with the GC. And now all these different things that are occurring make you the marketing, make you the thing, compared to, I did this one task and that one task got me a lead. I think that that's where it falls. And again, this is not easy, especially if you're a 1 or 2 man shop. I would be really clear about that. But like, that's the place where you start stacking the different marketing initiatives across the board and not thinking one is going to be my savior.
Yeah. I think that's so critical, right? I mean, the marketing language that we might call out as like operating in that multi-channel world. But what you're talking about is understanding where that perfect future client is and who they're already associated with and what their reality exists of 70% of the time, so that you can optimize for being everywhere. It's almost like omnipresence, right? But the most important piece about being everywhere for the person you're trying to reach kind of goes back to how you opened, even really with your title, I would say, because if we now think about story, right, and the story that you have to tell across all of that surface area, how did that realization that anything can work or everything can work, right, depending on how you break it down, change how you had to become not only a business leader, but ultimately a storyteller in the space?
I think seeing different initiatives work, right? Seeing Google ads work, seeing networking work, seeing the podcast work, seeing LinkedIn ads work, seeing like all these different things start working. Yeah. But they're not like an endless like waterfall. Like that's not how I would picture that. Now, again, if you got enough money with ads, you can make it a lot closer to a waterfall, but like that's not the reality for 99.8% of MSPs, right? Like that's not real. You can't just pour in 30, 40, 50 grand a month into ads and like be okay. Like that's not real. So what I started realizing is, oh, we need to share our story because that story is memorable, right? So like when people know who we are at Spot and know that like, hey, like we're really candid and like we do the right thing and we have continuous improvement. We go to our core values, and that helps not only externally, which we've seen in our sales process, but it also helps internally because we're really preaching this, not because it's a cool thing to throw on the wall or it's an awesome word or it's a bullshit marketing thing. It's like, no, like we are this, like this is who we are. So there's no confusion, right? Because like that makes our people internally, rock and roll because they know who we are, as well as externally, what you're getting with us. And we're not going to surprise you in oh shit, I didn't know that they, had a weird way of going about pricing, or like they're really hold that close to the chest or something. It's like, no, I'm just going to tell you what's up. And in that first call, we're going to hit you some ballpark numbers. And like, that's going to be straight up because we're going to be candid with you because it doesn't do us any good. to be anything that we're not.
Yeah.
So that was the point of like that, telling that story. And this is just a small example, but like telling that story of who we are, that holds so true no matter what channel you're in, as well as when it's the same in every channel. It shows the proof that you are really that thing, which people want authenticity. They want to do business with people they like, and everybody says that. And it's like, but how do you do that as a business? Well, you tell your business story. You tell like, these are the individuals we employ, and these are the individuals that run the company, because that's who they are at their core, which I have a deep belief in, like, being authentic, but like having core purpose and like being you, because I think that that's the way you have the most amount of impact at the end of the day when you cash out. Hopefully for me, it's 45 to 50 years from now.
Yeah. The thing that I kept hearing, just like echoing in my head when you were describing that, to break it down a little bit further too, was one of the forces that I discovered on that marketing journey too, was, if it's a hidden force, it's almost an invisible force, is self-identification, right? What you just described is like, you have to be willing to tell your story and like describe it in such a way that someone would actually hear that and then self-identify as, that person's my person, or these people are my people, or that's me too, right? Like, you have to be so clear in planting your flag. The marketer that I learned this concept from was Russell Brunson, when I sort of went deep down the online marketing world. And I think it might be in his Expert Secrets book where he talked about that. But like, you have to be able to plant your title of liberty, as he called it, which is your flag in the ground, which is then defended by a mini manifesto, which is like 10 words on a page, that's broken out into the actual manifesto. And that's like internal culture stuff that then you project externally, which then creates that prolific or polarizing effect that says, people you just know, right? Like the forces that are at bay is either repelling or attracting, and they're both happening at the same time. But at least you're forcing someone to self-identify and say, damn, like, yeah, Justin's my people, or holy shit, they solve all of these problems for construction companies just like me. Like, you strip out so much of the required resistance of decision making for that buyer when you can clearly articulate, like, what does the crest on your title of liberty actually say? And how do you speak it in such a way that anyone hearing it, I usually think of it as like the Braveheart scene, right? Like, you have to be able to throw your title of liberty in the ground and like go storm it. But those should be prospects coming to beat down your door and say, we are your people and we want that too. And our industry is just not great at really getting past vanilla messaging because of what's available out there, at least in my experience.
There's a saying that says you have to be willing to piss off 80% of people to find your 20%, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's super true. And I think that gets to the point of, hey, like, not everybody's built for us, which, going back to the demo, right? Like, we don't want everybody. Just because you're willing to pay double what we would normally charge, like, that doesn't mean I want you as a client. Like, and we understand that, and that's a hard thing for a lot of MSPs to get past, because especially when you're growing and you're growing up, right? It's just like, oh man, like that dollar amount could be huge, because then maybe I could hire somebody else, or maybe I could use that for marketing dollars, or whatever it's going to go to, or maybe I just want a boat or something, whatever the dream is.
Right.
But for us, what we learned is, no. We don't want, like, all money isn't good money. And like, we know that wholeheartedly. And we've been burned plenty of times of saying like, well, this deal, like, this is a good deal. Like, this is going to be good. This will be an easy thing for us. And then we realize, holy shit, this is a giant pain in our ass. And like, it's horrible. And like, this isn't working. Like, our people are miserable. We're actually not even being that profitable. And like, we've gotten to this place where it's like, yeah, we just either need to have the hard conversation to raise rates, which is fine. That's part of business.
Yeah.
Or we need to cut our loss and like move on, because we know that this is just not our tribe. Like, this is not the 20% that we want to be hanging out with.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you right now, if you could get 20% of the industry, or you can get 20% of the market, or you could even just get 20% of the people you talk to, that would be amazing. Most MSPs would be like, yeah, I'm in. I'm all in. But like, when you say, hey, like, cut off this 80%, they're like, oh, no way. Like, no, I couldn't possibly do that. And it's like, oh man, you're missing the big picture, because you're too worried about like, oh, but I could do this dentist office. I mean, I'm the HIPAA thing, it's not that big of a deal. Or, I could do this manufacturer, even though like that ERP system is totally fucked and I don't know anything about it, or whatever comes up, right? So I think that's, and you mentioned perspective, right? Like, hey, like everybody has perspective, and the buyer's journey, their perspective, right? Or perception, right? Like that is the thing that we're trying to dial in. Like we want the perspective of those individuals to see our perspective as the same. And then once that's the case, you just create a bunch of fans. I mean, that's essentially what you're trying to do. How can I create fans, which sounds funny because we're selling infrastructure and cybersecurity, but like if we can get fans, then like, man, your business will thrive for a very long time.
Absolutely. That was one of my biggest, again, like mindset openers, really. Like one of my red pills is a better way of putting it along the way was reading Raving Fans. I usually have it within arm's reach of me, but I don't know where I put it because
I'm creating super fans here. So that's it's an amazing book. If you've not read it, I recommend it highly. Brittany Hodak, she was on our podcast. She's a superstar, rock star. Love her. But concept very similar.
Very similar, right? Yeah, like probably just updated and applicable versus abstract. But the concept was there though, right? Like, especially in a services-based business, which I think is where some of us get it all wrong. Is like we think we're tech companies or something else, but like it's not true, right? We're in the hospitality business, although most don't even realize we're in the service business. And so that's a huge like perspective and mindset shift, but it does unlock everything. One of the other things I wanted to double down on, because I had never heard of it through the 80-20 rule like you had, because I saw it through I think it might have been Dan Kennedy, but he would always say, if you haven't offended somebody by noon, then you aren't marketing hard enough, which is kind of the same concept, right? Like you need to be polarizing, but in the right way, right? With a clear message so that you are constantly attracting or repelling. Otherwise, you're just going to get lost in the sauce of our, over delusioned messaging of an industry anyway. What was the most frustrating or disappointing part of watching your peers or even your own MSP initially burn cash or chase fake leads while ignoring what really works?
One way we've burned a lot of money, like a ton of money, is SEO, right? And I go back to, I believe all marketing works.
Yeah.
I do wholeheartedly. We've used PPC forever. The concept of SEO and PPC are very similar. Just how you get there is different, right?
Yeah.
We've gone through, and nobody in house is an expert at it, so we have to go externally, outsource, this function to reputable, SEO companies, say like $5,000 a month in that kind of ballpark. So like, legit dollars being spent.
Right.
We did 3 different years with 3 different ones and have not found that return yet.
Yeah. Still waiting on the long tail from that.
Yeah. And not even like, oh, you got a bunch of leads and you didn't sell shit, right? Like that, or oh, you got a lot more traffic. It was just like, man, like we didn't see this happen. Like, like there's little things here and there that's like, oh, okay, it's coming in like 9 months. They always say like 9 months, it's going to just explode. And you're like, okay. And so we played that game not once, not twice, but 3 times and found that didn't work, which is wild. Because in those 3 years, I'm like, well, I should have just took all that money and just thrown it either back into PPC, which was working, throw it into the podcast, throw it into networking. We're doing an event now, right? Like, it's just like things that could have happened faster didn't, because we were anchoring on a traditional marketing path, right? Like everybody's like, oh, do PPC, do SEO, and that's all you need, and then you'll be good to go. And it's like we fell to the trap of like, this makes sense, like this. And it again, to what I've said, I don't disagree that it doesn't work. I just think you got to really find somebody that knows what they're doing, specifically in the MSP space. Otherwise, you are going to eat a lot of cash.
Yeah. And I think you really just described perhaps one of the most traumatic experiences for the majority of MSPs who have at least overcome the concept of like, I want to grow, so I'm going to invest some money in it, rather than just like, I want to grow, but I didn't do anything different. So like, speaking specifically to the MSPs that have tried things and they've invested in and haven't seen the success as well, if we can now like reshape a potential future for them by breaking down this unique approach that you've now come up with, right, for sustainable MSP growth, one that actually prioritizes the right things, which would be values, partnerships, metrics that actually matter. What is the core philosophy or method that makes your approach now so different from what the typical MSP marketing agencies out there are doing?
So I go back to demo. I think demographic is a huge piece. Now, when you take, like, say, PPC, for instance, that can be difficult if you're in one location, even if you're in a large city like LA or Chicago or something like that, to say, like, I'm only looking for manufacturers, right? And it's not to say that there's not a ton of manufacturers, but your pool of population decreases significantly. So it's like, it can be really slow, which is always the MSP owners don't like slow stuff, which is interesting, which is why I think a lot of marketing initiatives die, because they just don't the patience to wait it out to get to the place where it makes sense. So I think that's a piece, as well as just not knowing marketing as well, right? I think that that's another big problem. But for us, going back, it's the demo. So it starts there, and then it's saying, like, what does that demo care about? How can I be in front of that demo as many times as possible? And how many different ways can I be in front of that demo? So for us, okay, so if you're hitting them on ads, cool, check, bam, got that. All right. Also outreach via LinkedIn, cool, awesome. Oh, all right, LinkedIn content and podcast guests, right? Bing, there's another. Okay, let's have an event. Let's host an event with that demo and say, like, hey, we're going to put on an event specifically for that demographic. And that's another thing, right? So it's just like, if you just keep feeding the story, right? Keep feeding the story and get it from every angle, you find that people start coming to you a lot more than you have to, like, hunt them down. That's certainly what we've seen, where it's like, we get people that'll come to us out of the blue, where it's like, oh my God, I listened to your podcast and it was awesome and it really was helpful. And it's like, awesome, you got help from us that had nothing to do with IT and cybersecurity. Like that, it was just like, shit, I was having a problem with my project managers, and now I heard this guy talk on your podcast who wasn't even us, who solved your problem, but we were the link to that. So now it's like, oh, you're a fan of us, like, you believe what we're doing. And I think that starts with the demo, and then it just feeds into, you have to hit all these different areas, but tell the same story over and over and over again, and just be authentic to who you are.
Yeah. Have you found a particular framework, identity? I'm not going to use the word thought leader, but, construct as it relates to storytelling that could be like a shortcut for a analytical brain that isn't wired for storytelling or creativity. Sure. And yet it's more like that, MSP owner with 10 employees, and they're willing to do the work or figure those components out. Like, are there any shortcuts there specific to storytelling that we can unlock?
I think two things that are off the top of my head. One, what's the foundation of who you are, right? If that's you as the owner, or if that's you as the business, like, you got to be clear on who you are, right? Because it's like, that's the person that's going to be in the story or be the guide to the story, depending on what your philosophy, if it's like a story branding component there is. But you have to know that. Like, with that comes lots of different things, because then it's just piecing together stories that happen. We had to go, we don't do low voltage, but we did some wiring for a client because they were in a really tough bind, right? That's the reason we did that, is because we do the right thing. And that's to our core philosophy. So when, we'll tell you out front that, like, we're not low voltage. We don't do that shit. We're not a construction company. But like, man, you were in a really tough place, and we're going to be compassionate enough to understand that. And we're going to help you through that, because that's who we are, because doing the right thing is super important. And at the end of the day, for us, like, our big purpose for the company is making technology reliable, or creating peace of mind by making technology reliable, right? So it all feeds back into the same thing. And I think that's why it's really important to know who you are first, because I think stories are easier to grab and pull into the big story when you already have a foundation. Right. So, I see it all the time. Like, I have calls with our engineers, right? And I call them culture calls. And it's just literally like, I can see core values all over the place from stories they tell me. And then it's like, oh, this is great for marketing. Like this is great for a sales conversation because like now it's real live shit that has occurred. So it's not just hyperbole. It's like, oh no. Like we literally did do the low voltage work for that client, which is not a thing we do. Or, oh man, like we did have somebody or 4 of our engineers up at 10 o'clock on a Friday because there was a client down that existed. Like those are real things that we did because of who we are. And I think that that's the quickest way to get to stories, get the base, and then just talk. You know, a lot of owners, especially at smaller MSPs, know a lot of the things that occur in the business. But as you grow, you know less and less. That's the goal, right? And that's when you have to like ping on, okay, I need to talk to our engineers to see like what stories are there that exist that just continually showcase our actual story.
Yeah. There's a couple of really tangible takeaways out of that too. Like one of the first thing I thought of was some of my experience, but too, if I went back to raving fans, one of the examples of, I think it was the department store example where the owner, the president or whatever of the department store set up his desk in the center of the store. Right. And so as I'm thinking to your point about as you grow as an MSP and you kind of get a little bit more detached from what's happening on the ground, like go intentionally spend 20, 30, 40 minutes, a whole day inside your NOC or whatever you call it. Like where are your people that are helping your customers? And just listen, right? Overhear the things that are happening. And those stories will be within earshot no matter what, was the first like really tactical takeaway. Because I always loved working in and around the NOC, even as my position changed. Like I wanted to be as close to that as possible for multiple reasons, but stories were definitely part of it. The other thing that I felt like was really critical about what you said, and it's a big pet peeve of mine, is either abandoning or at minimum acknowledging that best practices steal a lot of what you just said to lean into, which is your core identity, right? Because like by nature and by practice, they're designed to get you to work and run and build and optimize a certain way. And oftentimes it seemed like in my experience that as we optimize our business to operate and run a certain way, that we became further and further away from who we truly were or why we truly came. I used to have this exercise I would go through with the MSP owners where it was like, have you forgotten where you came from? Was kind of like the spirit of it.
Oh yeah.
Because you really had to pull back into the origin story of the owner. Like, why the hell did you risk everything and take the gamble? And what did you get in it for? And then unpack, why did you stay in it? Why are you still doing it? Why do you deal with the risk, the challenge, the frustration, the opportunity, right? There's a lot of positives to it too. But I think people maybe overcomplicate finding the essence for what their stories will be. And so just a couple thoughts on, where to go questions wise to find the components of the story so that they can write it. And then one of the things that you mentioned too, that I think is really helpful if people don't know where to begin was story brand. You can pick any story. There's like, let's just call like 7 main story archetypes from human nature. Right. And if you really don't know where to begin, you can go have that conversation with AI even, and it'll ask you all the questions you want or need to know about putting together an archetype for the story. But yeah, that was a huge adjustment because I came up on the tech side and then moved to the sales and marketing. So I had to like shift the ability to stop thinking so analytically and more creatively, and going through a story brand workshop, that was probably, 10 years ago, probably, was a huge eye opener and made it so simple from a fundamentals to be able to start doing that ourselves too.
Yeah, I agree. I think Don Miller, story brand, is I think that's a good place to start if you are struggling with how do I create the stories or how do I share the stories, kind of across the board. I think that's a good place to be. And to your point with AI, if it's not a live, like me telling a story and you got time to just drop it into Copilot or ChatGPT, that you would be baffled what it can do in regards to story, because it will literally ask it to help you write a story about a thing, and then it will ask you the questions and it will feed you back something you're like, damn, that does sound impressive. And it's like, yeah, well, that's what you did. You're just now communicating.
Just repackage the words differently. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. In a meaningful way. One of the other things that I had picked up, it was after the story brand piece, probably as a retargeting thing. It wasn't from him, but it was like, I can't remember the name of the deck now, but it's like the little deck of cards that's like these story
Oh,
prompts
yeah.
and story architect type things. That was really helpful to jog my memory, right? Because I used to always think when I was on the tech side, like my brain was just this massive filing cabinet of all the shit that I screwed up along the way, or the things that I finally figured out how to solve. But I needed the little cue card to like be able to pull into that filing cabinet and then reorganize it into something a little more creative. Yeah, it had something to do with deck in the name, but I can't remember its name.
I think that concept of like asking stories or telling people stories or asking questions to tell people stories, I think that should be done more often. Like for me, Jamie, and Franklin, my son, like we do that at dinner, right? It's like not just like how was your day, but like I literally have like a deck of cards that says like, hey, like if you could be a superhero or you give a family member a superpower, what would it be and why, right?
Yeah.
That activity creates communication skills, right? Like, yes, I'm doing it because I have a 5-year-old and I want them to share and I want them to be brave and I want all those things. But it's like for you, it also helps you in regards to how you tell stories and why you think about things the way you think about. I think it's just practice. Kind of like, hey, I'm really good at configuring a server. And it's like, well, it probably took you a lot of practice to do that. So storytelling is exactly the same. It's like, run through a lot of stories over time and you'll start picking up some new abilities essentially that get good at it. I mean, I assume when you moved from tech to marketing, that wasn't this is easy. I'm good.
No.
This is such an easy transition. It was probably like, oh shit, this is all different. There's no ones and zeros. Like this is a very, very different thing.
It was the fastest trip from hubris to humility I've ever experienced in my life in one sales opportunity. Right. Because like I was essentially sitting in like a sales engineer seat for a couple of years working with all of my salespeople. So I was essentially on all sales calls. What felt like doing the closing the whole time, but not having any idea about anything else that the salespeople were doing on the motion of sales. And so when I finally switched to just being a sales executive myself, and that was where it was like I did everything that I'd always done for a couple of years and then got just totally gut punched on the first one when they called and said, hey, we went a different direction. I was like, whoa, whole reality shifted and shattered. But it was then figuring out, well, like, and humbling myself enough to call him back and say, hey, I'm not here to change your decision. I don't even want to try, but I would love the opportunity to come out and meet with you to help understand how you made the decision and why you made the decision that you did. And that was where the entire light bulb went off. Like he literally laid out what a buyer's journey looks like, which I had no awareness of prior to that. And then I used that as the footprint for where I built, all of the really sales motion and marketing stuff that evolved for the next 8 years from there. But man, it was such a blessing. One, that he was willing to do it. Ironically enough, he built and ran his business off of the Raving Fans methodology too. So like that was my first entry point into that. And really just understanding a totally different way to think about business in general.
And you mentioned framework, sales framework, not processes. We say process, but I'm interested in this framework comparatively because I think I understand why you're saying it that way. But I'll say if it's a framework or a process, however you're phrasing this concept, you have to have that, and it has to evolve as data, like more data comes in, it changes. And what we found is as we've tinkered with our sales process for forever, and will be continued to tinker with.
Right.
Once you find one that it obviously is working, it brings up so much weight off your shoulders because I feel like a lot of MSPs, they're just kind of shooting from the hip a lot of times, and maybe like they went through a sales training with if it's one of the big, if it's Robbins or if it's 7-figure or if it's 20, whatever it is, and they say like, oh, just do this and this works, and it's like that sounds great. However, in reality, what we found is like, no, you have to kind of do some blending of things. You have to figure out when you pull back, when you push, because like those little nuances are so massive that it's just hard to teach nuance, like the little tiny nuances. Now, again, practicing and having calls where you're running through it, and that's all good, but like those live at bats, man, right? That's it. But be process driven or be framework driven at the end of the day is super crucial.
Yeah, and ultimately what you just mentioned is why I banned the word process, not because of the lack of discipline it required,
Mm-hmm.
but the word process for some reason instilled this rigidity and black and whiteness and
Mm-hmm.
sterileness to
Okay.
the motion, if you will, where it seemed like to someone who had just come into it or was more technical, or basically anyone that was on the team or coming into the team, they, when discussed through process, it didn't allow for nuance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized about my journey and my discovery and my building of this continually iterative process was every single aspect respected the nuance that was required in that very moment, like the power of presence, whether
Yeah.
that was the one email to get the meeting or to follow up from the meeting or any of those things. It was like the human reasoning, discernment is a better word, like the discernment I was applying in real time as a result of interacting with the other human allowed for the art that needed to match the science. And I felt as though the way that practitioners in MSP were following the process was way too scientific, and it didn't bring in enough spirit of the art, right? The people part, the psychology part. And so that was my growth hack, if you will, to expanding it out to my team, was like, we just won't call it a process, right? You have parameters as different people on the team could make different decisions from an autonomy standpoint, but they understood how and why the whole thing flowed. And so like the structure was there because we had qualification requirements and all of everything that you would in a sales process. But the only objective of every single stage or step was to earn the right to get the next one. And
Mm-hmm.
that really like freed up what I felt was the creative ingenuity of each individual to be more real and more present and understand, like, how do I make this one a win? And brought in the nuance ultimately, for your word.
I think we've been doing a lot of this, and this is just processes in general.
Mm-hmm.
Of as our team grows, and maybe you can speak to this. It's how you come to a decision, right? How you
Mm-hmm.
make the decision to do whatever the next step is, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever that, like
Mm-hmm.
the actual shell of a process or a framework.
Yeah.
Um, what we're finding is, yeah, it's important to have something. However, what's more important is how does somebody make that decision to,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, now we can move to the next step. Is that yes or no? Easy
Yeah.
that way, but like
Right.
when you get into nuances of things, it's like, ooh, should I send this guy, a box of chocolate, or should I do something else? Like
Mm-hmm.
when I'm trying to, like, there's something, like there's a feeling there. How
Yeah.
how do you discern that, right? As in your
Yeah.
framework of sales, like how have you, not for yourself, because like for us, we just
Right.
feel it.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it because we feel it, and we're in the position we are because we've been right enough times, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
Right.
essentially it. How do
Mm-hmm.
you get others to get that decision making, to
Yeah.
make great decisions for your company?
Yeah. It's a great question. The thing that I came back to time and time again, because also that framework, that process was built over time in conjunction with basically my right hand, who was a sales rep before I joined the team.
Mhm.
And we tag teamed it, but we always set an intention before, allowed the opportunity to be malleable during, and then reflected after, like over and over, right? And then we just
Mhm.
did the reps, to your point. And what we found, or what I found, was I took from my tech side of the house, which was this mantra that I knew to be true when I was working with techs, was if you don't tell me why, I'll never comply. And I brought that over to the here's how the process works and why. And I found that if we broke down to the fundamentals of human psychology and then like behavioral psychology and applied that to the process of the sales motion of here's how or why you could make that decision or make that shift or whatnot. But if you understood that it was actually about the other person, not about you, and when and where to call those audibles to like meet them where they were and what they wanted next or what they perceived to be coming next, or you needed to take control and like give them what was coming next. It was almost these footnotes in the process of like, this is the phase, this is the objective, but then understand that these psychological things could be happening at this
Mhm.
stage in it too. And so understanding like the interconnectedness or the links to almost the 15 things that mattered, right? And in my world, there was 15 things. There was 5 pieces of emotional safety, there was 5 pieces of awareness, and then there was 5 pieces of basically their confidence. And when we put those 15 elements together, no one person was ever in the right or in the exact same place of our process. It was, where are they in those 5 key areas, right?
Yep.
Because once I understood where they were in that matrix of 15 things, it informed which part of the process to run next, right? Or which piece of the play to run next. That may or may not make sense because it's a bit high level without going in and explaining it all. But the concise answer was, we made it about the buyer. We knew that we needed to place where they were in 3 core areas on a spectrum of 15 things. Yeah. And then based on that, we understood which element was necessary to move them that next step closer in those 3 categories.
That's one. I love that. Holy shit. That's super smart. So kudos to you and the team. That to me, right, is just how because I start looking at this, I'm like, okay, so these 15 items, right, we want to satisfy, and maybe it's all 15 or maybe it's 12 of 15, get whatever, whatever you found to create success in that scenario. I start thinking like, oh, okay, so your process isn't a linear process, right? It's like, well, this confidence piece, we thought we would solve it in the second step of the process, but didn't solve that. So now we need to do this other task or do this other thing to really solidify that concept, which to me, I love, right? But when I think about it, I'm like, I think that's just process like that. Like to me, I'm like, oh man, that's just a process that you've broken out into not just being this like A, B, C, D,
it wasn't linear. The way I tried to describe it and then ultimately teach it was, I used the illustration of a padlock, right? Like a 3 tumbler padlock, right?
Yep.
And so if you're looking at the padlock, like there's only one combination that's going to pop that thing open. Yep. So if popping that thing open equals signed contract, new client, these 3 tumblers represented those 3 areas, right? Yeah, it was confidence, and it was security or safety, and it was awareness. And so I just knew if I was already at the right, if I had 2 of the 3 pieces of the combo done, then I just needed to tweak that last piece to get them to the right stage, because it was really 3 different funnels, right? So all I had to do is get them to the bottom of each one. But to your point, the other way I would describe it, it was 3-dimensional. So like it was a Rubik's Cube. All we have to do is get these colors to line up, right? But how we twist it and turn it, it's going to be different for every person. But the goal is to get to those colors, and then just giving like a psychological framework or understanding of how to do that or what to do. It was pretty huge.
Love that.
Yeah. I do know that one of your maybe philosophies or components too was really when you shifted more to this give to give growth mindset, which I think is massive. What would be the first 3 steps that an MSP that wants to adapt or adopt that methodology or mindset could take?
So let me step back 1 second. So I think that the concept to give is exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like I'm just giving something away, if it's time or energy or resource or whatever it is, just because I want to. And that's it. Like, that's the truth. Like, that is who I am, right? As a human being. Like, I am one that believes in abundance. I believe in collaboration. I believe that, like, if you want to get, go from good to great, you do it together. Like, that's the only path for it. So for me, it's really just true to my core, right? Like, like, to be very crystal clear, like, that concept isn't you can just completely learn this and you'll be fine. It's like, well, you got to really believe it. It's the same thing with like culture. Like, you got to give a shit. If you don't care about your people, you're never going to have a great culture. Like, and there's no other way to paint it. So, but for somebody that is looking and saying like, there's something here, I'm not like, they always tell me like, well, don't give this sales asset away because you need to get something in return, and like all these exchanges. And it's like, like there's process that needs to occur, but that doesn't change the fact that if your mindset is like, I just want to help you. Like, I want to help you make the best decision. Now, I certainly, from my perspective, believe that that's us. Like, that's certainly who I believe. But more than that, if I can help you make a great decision, that means I'm going to make an ally. I'm going to make a fan, a raving fan, a super fan, right? Like I'm going to create that, which long term will always benefit you. And that could be for all kinds of things. We've gotten people that we haven't sold to that have given us referrals.
Yeah.
Right. Wild. You didn't even choose us, but yet you've given us a referral. Why? Because how we presented ourselves, how we stepped in and said, like, we want to make sure that you're getting the best thing you possibly can, even if that isn't us, even though we are the best thing that you can. Let's just be clear about that. Right. So this concept of give to give instead of giving to get, and like I can only give you this white paper if you'll get on a call with me, or I'm only going to give you the quote if you meet with me in person, or I'm going to all these things where it's just like, that sounds great and sound scientifically and like the technical pieces of this, but it's no, like literally just give some shit away. Like like, hey, I don't want you to lose complete control of a sales process by any means of the imagination, but like you got to give to show the fact that like I'm here to help you. And like that idea of me helping you is going to carry way more weight than the fact that like, well, how I explain our services really blows your fucking mind. And it's like, that's not going to do it compared to like, Justin just helps. Like he is down to help.
Right.
Exactly. And it showcases the fact that like, we're not just, hey, we're just an IT and cyber provider, because like at the end of the day, it's like, I want to connect with as many people in my demo as possible, even if I'm doing work for them or not, because they can help other people I know. Because if I help them and then they're like, oh shit, I'm looking for a drywaller, and I'm like, fucking great, I got a client that this is perfect, because at the end of the day, that then will help me with a current client I have, who will then give me a referral, who then this particular prospect didn't give me their business, but they helped me get more business. And I think that is such a missed opportunity, because people are too worried about what they're getting in return compared to just saying like, I'm going to help to help. Like as a service-based company, you should have a help mindset. You mentioned customer service is such a crucial piece of the MSP space that we just miss. We think we're like technical. It's like, no, you're 85% of your job is to be a great customer service representative. Like that is it. And I think that's where the give to give comes through, and you see it. It's so wild what happens in your life as well as when you start like just trying to be impactful to others. That it gives you success in so much return. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, immeasurable for sure. And as I think about that and have experienced that too, having been on both sides of that realization, even great methods face pushback, right? So like, what is the biggest objection that you hear from MSPs when you talk about focusing more on authenticity and value instead of just chasing short-term leads or short-term results?
A few things come up. One, the leaving money on the table, that always comes up. Like, oh, you're like, you when you aren't polished into this generic thing that is open to everybody, you leave so much on the table. And it's like, yeah, but you weren't getting any of that work anyways, because you were generic and nobody gave a shit about you. So like that is, I hear that all the time. I also think the concept of give to give compared to like, hey, I'm doing this because I'm a business and I'm trying to make money. Oh, heard. We love money here at Spot. We're not against it. We're certainly a capitalist company by all means. We're not a nonprofit. But what happens in reality is you make more money. And it's so hard for people to wrap their head around this, of like, when you are trying to just help people, just like you should be when they're your client, when you're just trying to help them, they see it. They feel it. And that resonates way more than the fact that like, well, this guy took me through a great sales process and he sold me on it and it sounded great. And and hopefully you're delivering at the high level of the service that you tried to sell. But a lot of times it's a lot of lip service, and then people fucking hate you. And that's way worse than the fact that like, I didn't get this client or this prospect to sign with me, but like they fucking liked me. So that is an added benefit. If more and more people in the world liked you or liked your business, you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't be surprised, because like it makes sense. You'll get more business. Like it's just a numbers game to it. And the burning of any bridge goes away, because it's like, hey, I was just here to help. I had a call literally last week with a manufacturer that they're coming in. They had very old servers. They were like fucking 10 years old. I mean, it was like Jesus, you guys are just like waiting for the worst possible thing to happen to you. They were doing some government work, trying to move to CMMC2. They're currently in ITAR. So they just had like a ton of work. Like they had a ton of work. So I ballparked them in this initial call, and I got the laughing at me, right? Like the oh my God. And it was just like, yeah, like, well, one, we're all inclusive. That's how we operate, which has its own benefits. And we can get a whole podcast into why that makes sense. Which actually goes to the give kind of idea. But you got to laugh at me. But then we had another 20-minute conversation after that. It wasn't doesn't work, whatever. And then we had another conversation that then is encouraging them to come to a happy hour with me, right? So it's like, there is not a bad scenario where a business leader wants to hang out with you more. Like that will only add to your benefit, because everybody can help you. Everybody in the world can be impactful to you. But business leaders certainly have an easier way to be impactful to you, especially when we're talking about business. So to try to befriend and be right and be just and do the right thing for a business owner, you're always going to end up on top.
Yeah. And there's so much power in your demonstration there of like, your only objective is to earn the opportunity or to earn the right for the next engagement or next conversation or next interaction, right? So building out your reality in such a way where you have all of those arrows in the quiver is so important or so huge too, right? Like you need to be putting together the happy hours that you can then invite them to and commingle with your clients. Like all those things can be in motion to make your reality so much easier and cleaner and simpler, to move someone into a real relationship building scenario rather than, again, just forcing them through the meat grinder of sales. The thing I was feeling when you were talking through that too was, if MSPs can't maybe associate or think about like how to make this tangible the way that we're describing it, is I'll just put my MSP hat back on. Think about the last time you dealt with any vendor in the MSP space, MSP person, and like think about how begrudgingly you forced yourself through their sales process because it was so awful and it didn't match the way you wanted to explore the product, learn about the product, buy the product, interact with the product. Like all those things were true. And just like sit in that for a moment and then think to yourself, like, would I buy from me? Right? Am I the kind of person, and have I created the kind of experience that I would want to buy from in how you're selling? And that exercise alone was so huge for us too when we did it, because it was like, holy shit, look at all of the friction we engineered into the process, first of all, because we're techs and we're in, that's just what we do. Like, and yet when you change the lens, the frame of reality that you look at that through, and you just say, how can I be as easy to buy as I can be without taking the guardrails off? But when it's easy buy, it's easy sell. I think that's one of the big things that we generally fundamentally screw up in this space. Plenty of that's a whole nother hour probably of conversation too.
I think a lot about the digital, right? COVID showcased the fact that you can sell digitally without a problem. Like that, that's happened. We have clients in I think 6 or 7 states at this point, right? We don't exist in those states. It's just we sold deals there, right? So in those scenarios, you start saying like, well, historically we thought you had to be in person, you had to be in front of them, you had to do this whole thing, and it's like, well, that's not the case, right? Because it causes more friction. Right. And I literally just talked to an MSP the other day, and they said, yeah, my sales guy, he won't do things unless he's there in person. And I'm like, well, that's creating a bunch of friction. And he's like, yeah, well, we had this great looking prospect, and he wouldn't do this, and it made it so hard to scheduling all this stuff that when we eventually got to talk to him, they went with somebody else. And I'm like, well, it's because the other 2 or 3 MSPs they talked to, they made the process easy. Like if the process is easy, in the beginning, right, then you should expect the process to be easy. Then if it's hard in the beginning, just for you to sell to me, if that's hard, oh, no way I want to do business with you. Why would I possibly? You're this is the time that you would be the best to me. As you're trying to sell me on something. This should be the easiest, the best service. All those things should be happening right now. And if that's not the case, then there's no way I'm hiring you.
Yeah, that I think is a great point of, again, where we get in our own way, right? To your point, like the sales process should be when you are on your best behavior, and from the buyer's mind, like they're going to get the best experience, as fucked up as that might sound. So again, like break down what you're doing and how you're doing it through the lens of just, am I easy to buy? Right? Again, don't take the guardrails off, but don't be ridiculous either. Don't be perfect. You don't need the 73-point checklist just to take a first call, as an example. Like, none of that matters anyway, right? It's all for us and not for them.
A good point, taking somebody else's sales process. I do it frequently, and I look at it through that lens. I'm like, oh, okay. Obviously, it's a product that I generally could purchase, or a service I can purchase. But then it's just like, how are they doing it? Like, what are they doing? Did I like it? Did I not like it? Like, think through that. That's super helpful. At least it is to me.
Yeah, me too. I'm constantly viewing it. Like, I'm also the person that still actually stands out and talks to door-to-door solicitors, because I love hearing and understanding the sales pitch.
Kudos
and
to them. Holy shit. You're knocking doors. Right. You deserve somebody to talk to you. And you can knock my door. Now, I might not buy your shit, but like, I will definitely talk to you.
Yeah. And I will learn something too. Right. Because again, they're in the closest, tightest feedback loop of sales possible. And so if you don't study that as a sales funnel, then you're missing out on opportunity. It's a great 15 minutes or 3 minutes of my time spent.
Yeah.
I learn something every time I do it. Without intentionally wasting theirs. So I want to talk a little bit about the future. A couple questions there. Sure. What do you think is coming in the next few years that most MSPs are completely unprepared for?
Oh, man. I think you're going to find... I think we're going to find that AI is going to be very competitive to us. I think that, you can already, like, there's already pieces where it's like, oh, password resets and like really small stuff. I think that that's going to grow significantly, and that we are going to be against companies as well as, software and things like that, that are able to be really lean because of AI. And that, means like, hey, if you got a really robust MSP, like what does that look like? How do you, keep your people? I'm a big believer in keeping as many people as you humanly can, as well as like, hey, like, how much are you diving into AI? Because it's inherent, right? It's inevitable for all business. And certainly if you're in the tech space, like, you should be already fucking around in it. Like, there's no, if you're not doing anything, minimally writing an email with ChatGPT, like, what are you doing? Like, what, like, you are already failed. Like, you're already behind. Like, you are so far behind at this point. So I think that's a big thing. I also think that you're going to find more of the in-person, in touch to sell stuff. I think that because of the fact that everything is digital, and because you have, all the chat bots are going to be AI, and even like callers, like I go to this AI forum on Thursday nights here in Phoenix, and like, it is wild how like good this shit's getting. So I think you're going to have more in-person stuff that people have to get committed to. I think that not everything, like, we're still going to very much live very digitally, but when you're trying to sell deals and you're trying to do stuff, you're going to have to create experiences for people to interact with you, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Creating experiences for people. It goes back to something I didn't highlight earlier that you had said, which is really focusing on how you make people feel through the interaction is huge.
Yep.
What is a common belief in MSP marketing that is dead wrong?
Other than like, shit doesn't work, I get that a lot. I've done all these things and it doesn't work. Well, that's just a persistence thing, is what I generally find. Something that I think I mentioned a little bit is like, you can't be everything to everybody. Like, it's not good for your marketing team or your sales team to be able to sell things efficiently. I think you lose out on, and even if they're great at what they do, you're losing out on pieces there because they're spread too thin of what they need to understand and know. The same thing with the team. Going from a blue collar to a white collar client, they're so different. Like, how they interact, even if their tech stack is fucking identical, how they interact is different. And if you're not speaking the same language, it doesn't resonate. And you can't possibly speak the same language with both sides of that coin. If you have a law firm and a construction company, it's like they just don't value the same shit. So like if you're not on board with what they value and their perception of what is working, what's not working, that's really difficult, I think, which again goes back to like know your demo. Like that is the most crucial point. Know your demo, know who you are, and then know where to fucking blend those two ideas together.
Yeah. What is the one thing that you hope every MSP that's watching this will start doing immediately if they want to grow?
Oof, man, that's a great question. I think finding themselves, and I feel a little bit like a broken record, but you have to tell people something 7 times before they hear it. So you gotta find who you are truly. This helps in the sales process that we kind of already talked about, but the culture piece internally, it helps so much. And those people can be such massive advocates for your sales. And I think that that's very just undervalued. Like people, chalk up a tech as a tech, and it's like, no, man, like they're interacting with your clientele every day, all day. Like they're super powerful. It doesn't matter that they're tier 1 or tier 2. It's like they're super crucially powerful, and they're hearing things that you're not hearing. And like they can be the one that like lead you to a deal. Like it happens to us, and like we see it. And I think that that's just a miss. They don't know, the MSPs don't know who they are. And then they don't value that concept across the whole organization.
Yeah, that's so right. It's so good. Justin, because I know that we've turned the light bulb on for anyone who's actually listened to this, if they want more of you, or they're interested in some of the stuff that we talked about, or they want some help with some of the things that you can help them with, where do they find you? Where's the best place to get a hold of you?
So LinkedIn, I'm all over the place. Justin Neagle, that's Neagle. It's spelled like beagle, but pronounced like bagel. So that's an easy way to remember it. Building Scale, our podcast would be great if you listen to that. There's lots and lots of insights just because we focus in that architecture, engineering, construction space. It's business. So you get lots and lots of value there. And you can totally just reach out to me at Justin N, so it's 2 N's, at spotmigration.com. Always happy to literally have conversations like this. Or if you're like, man, my sales process is fucked and I'd really like some help, or hey, like I heard that you can kind of do some PPC, or hey, we're thinking about running an event and like we just want insight from that. I am all about give to give. Hence, collaboration is the way that we go from good to great. So I'm literally begging you to reach out to me. That is my plea to you. And if you think I'm just a crazy fucking guy and you just want to shoot the shit, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah. And the whole reason this show even came up was because years ago, I took him up on that crazy offer too, just to build a connection, and we had conversation. We went down plenty of rabbit holes.
Oh yeah,
but
some nectarines.
I can attest to it being real and it being authentic. So please, reach out and go that route. I can't let you go though without giving you the opportunity to leave a question behind for the next guest that they must answer. So if you could leave one question behind, what would that question be?
Yeah, I'm going culture. So we talked a shit ton about sales and marketing, which, blood of the business, love the monies. That's good. But for me, like my ikigai, why I wake up in the morning, is because I want to lead people and build great culture. Like that is solely it. So my question is going to be very culture focused. So wonderful, beautiful guest of the future. If you could give 3 things that would build a unbelievably strong, consistent, and super culture, what would they be?
Love that. Awesome. Justin, thank you again for coming on this episode of MSP Insider. And thank you to the audience for tuning in and getting your mind blown with Justin and myself this time around.